Welcome to Siding with Love, a podcast of the Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Carol Bousquet, and I'm one of the co-hosts, along with Reverend Janet Parsons. We are very pleased to be back in the 1623 studios to present the 6th episode of our podcast, Siding with Love. Welcome back, dear listeners. Our goal is to create a space for thoughtful conversation and connection. You'll find us on our Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church YouTube page. The links are also on our website for both this podcast and past sermons. We hope you'll hit like and also share the links with others. And we especially hope you'll leave a comment there. It is a place where we can connect and create conversation. Hello, Reverend Janet.
Hello, Carol. Great to be back.
It is. It's wonderful that there's a growing audience for our discussions here. It's just very exciting. So our theme this month is Flourishing Together, and it's Pride Month. What a great time to be exploring flourishing together. Your sermon Sunday was How We Flourish. I suspect since yours is this work all year long, that you may have some additional thoughts on this theme.
This is a really important topic. Flourish is a really important word, and it's one that we don't use that often. I think in this era, we're more likely to use the word thrive. I see the two as very closely related. But as I was sharing on Sunday, what really got me interested in the word flourishing was the discovery that when Thomas Jefferson was writing the Declaration of Independence, and he wrote those famous words that we have the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that what he meant by happiness was actually flourishing. That the Enlightenment 18th century view of happiness was the ability to thrive and to flourish and to grow. So I have been really intrigued by that ever since, and thinking about if we're not allowed to flourish, can we truly be happy? Because ultimately we see it today as being able to discover our authentic selves, be who we truly are, and to live in the world accepted, to be part of a family, to be part of a religious organization,
a community
of any kind, and to truly be able to be accepted and welcomed into that community.
And supported,
exactly. So flourishing should be an important part of any conversation these days. And of course, in the current era that we're living in, what we're seeing is a lot of attempts to really undermine the ability to flourish. It's the most basic thing, even looking at, say, children in school and people trying to withhold, say, lunches, for example, or after-school programming.
Free breakfast to start the day.
There are so many ways in which we could be supporting the growth of younger people and their ability to thrive that we don't take advantage of.
Our children.
Yeah. And how does a society thrive without healthy children? So on we go from there. At what point is somebody too old to be allowed to flourish? If a 6-year-old should be encouraged to flourish, why not a 36-year-old or a 76-year-old? It should never end. And that should be, as a society, our own definition of happiness. And we should be always holding that up as a goal for society, to not just survive, but to thrive and to really be able to live in the environment that you're in a safe and healthy way.
Non-threatening,
exactly.
We live in grotesque times.
They're harsh. They're very harsh. There's such a lack of compassion and empathy. And the American narrative has always been harsh in a way. That whole, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, the emphasis on the, quote, self-made man, and that the implication there is that we then look down on people who ask for help or who need help, who don't get there all by themselves. And of course, it's a huge myth because nobody really gets there all by themselves. But it does create this harshness of our national narrative that we should be able to succeed completely independently, and people who don't are regarded as less than. And I'm bringing this up because of the timing here as we are heading towards a big anniversary of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I wish that we were focusing on what this all means right now for our country. 250 years. It's wonderful. And we still have all these unfulfilled promises. And I wish that we were talking about it on that level.
I want to, at least for witness purposes, mention our founding minister, John Murray's legacy at this moment in time. I'm so grateful to Reverend Murray for bringing to our country way back when.
Universalism, and this does speak to universalism. Which is the belief that nobody would be consigned to hell. That was the original definition of universalism. But over the years has expanded to become more of a nobody should be left behind. Nobody should be left out. Everyone should have a seat at the table. And it's a hard thing to fulfill, but that is the message. And yeah, so this is a nice time to be honoring that too, because that's kind of a counter narrative to the narrative that I mentioned a minute ago about the harsh side of American life is also this belief that everybody should have a chance to make it as well. So, the work for us is to balance these narratives and to hopefully come down on the side of making sure that we're trying to create an environment where everybody can thrive. One of the things I shared on Sunday was an interesting story in the New York Times from last Saturday. This would be June 6th, by Nicholas Kristof, sharing the results of a study done by a advisory group that's called the State of the Nation. And they were ranking the 50 states based on their kind of on a well-being index, like whose citizens are thriving the best. Interestingly, number one was Minnesota. And after all that Minnesota has been through in the last few years, it was fascinating to see that they came out as doing the most to ensure the well-being of their citizens. And I'll toss in here that Massachusetts was 5th out of 50, which is great. And I think is recognition of things like our medical care and our education system, probably more than anything else. But Minnesota has truly adopted the need for community and has over years, not just recently, but over years has really developed systems for neighborhood organizations and mutual aid organizations and a sense that they have to take care of each other. So there's this really big emphasis on community and community growth and development. And so I wasn't surprised to see that they were first, but that's what we could be if we all started thinking about our neighbors and our cities in that way. And one thing that I always highlight is that back in late January, there was a call went out from Minneapolis to clergy all across the country to please come to Minneapolis and help them have a weekend of public witness. And over 250 clergy responded from all over the country. And
as if overnight, actually.
Practically overnight. It was about 48 hours.
Yeah.
People just hopped on planes. And the people of Minneapolis had to take care of them. And they had it all organized within 48 hours. And we're talking about housing and food.
Trainings.
Public witness events, church services. And I loved this one. If you can remember how cold it was this past winter, they had to find clothing for all these people. And so people arrived at the airport with whatever they had for winter clothing, but they were given coats and scarves and hats and face masks and everything that they needed.
Yeah.
They just pulled all this together. Mm-hmm. They knew how to do this.
Yes.
And this wasn't something that they had just invented in January.
Right.
They already knew how to do this. So hats off to Minnesota and to Minneapolis.
This is a wonderful discussion about Flourishing together, something I'm sure we could go on with. Let's transition to our segment. What are you reading? In my case, I just finished 3 books in a row by Elizabeth Strout and have 2 more lined up to read. I'd forgotten what a compelling writer she is. I read My Name is Lucy Barton and Amy and Isabel long ago. I just read The Burgess Boys, The Things We Never Say, and Anything is Possible. I have others sitting on the bedside table. However, I know we're going to turn next to the Gloucester Reads book. Janet, what are you reading right now?
I'm about to start reading a book called Home Fires, which is written by an author named Camilla Shamsi. And it's an immigrant story of a family, I believe people from India living in London, and then one of the daughters gets a fellowship to move to the United States. And it's really kind of how their family life is unfolding. And again, I'm thinking that memoirs and multicultural books are really a wonderful way for us to grow in empathy and compassion, because we get insight into other ways of living and what other people are experiencing in their lives.
Yes, I so agree, which brings us to the Gloucester Reads book, Pretty, memoir by K.B. Brookins. Cape Ann Pride and Gloucester Racial Justice Team have coordinated a community-wide reading experience to reinforce how our region is a welcoming community, to educate us. They have named the program Identity and Belonging, Reading Together, and chose this book, Pretty, a memoir by K.B. Brookins, to read. Anyone interested can choose to participate in 3 ways. You can just plain read the book, Pretty, a memoir. You can share your thoughts also in a facilitated discussion group, of which there are several throughout our communities. Our church is hosting one on Wednesday, June 24th from 3 to 5 o'clock. Myself and Gail Campbell are co-facilitating that. The other discussion groups, one will be at the Annisquam Village Church. Cape Ann Pride is hosting a Zoom discussion, I believe, from Magma. The West Gloucester Trinitarian Church will be hosting one. And I believe there's another in Magnolia. Ultimately, the project culminates in a virtual author talk on Tuesday, July 14th at the Gloucester Stage. K.B. Brookins will drop in via satellite.
That's great. And I believe there's also one at the Sawyer Free Library as well. They've got Gloucester covered,
yes,
which is excellent. So,
and it's an incredible piece of work.
Mm-hmm. Really worth reading. I haven't finished it yet, but K.B. Brookins is a transgender Black person. They use they, them pronouns. And they're also a poet. And over my life, I've discovered that when poets turn to writing prose, that you get a really very high quality of writing. I think it's their training to learn how to pare their thoughts down to the essence. And so the writing is powerful, not too formal. It's not a heavy read or a slow read, but it's very accessible. But at the same time, no mincing of words. They say exactly what they mean. And you are it's compelling the way they write about their early life in particular, starting with, at the age of 5, starting to realize that they were different and, were identified as female at birth. And so talking about the identity of a young Black girl in the church culture down in Texas, and all the frilly dresses and the expectations, and how it just never felt like it fit, even beginning at the age of 5. It pulls you in very quickly into what this person remembers is just a young child, and takes you through their life from there.
It's a masterful piece of writing. Mm-hmm. KB Brookins was born to a 17-year-old mother who gave them over to the friends, close friends in the church, elders who raised KB Brookins. But when I say they were in the church, I mean it. It was a strict upbringing. The dad was a preacher, or the mom played the organ, and so they were in the church. References to KB being required to go to their third service on Sunday, for example.
My head exploded.
Yeah. How KB Brookins survived, I'm only halfway, maybe a little more through the book. How KB survived to complete the book and live on. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait to meet KB at the Gloucester Stage event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I did a little bit of reading about KB, and I just wanted to share this quote. This is from a review on the glad.org page. And it says, throughout the memoir, readers become intimately familiar with Brookins' journey to self-love and acceptance, driven towards understanding through words that underline a shared humanity that everyone can relate to, regardless of your gender identity or sexual orientation. And there's a quote saying, I wasn't born attached to gender, just like everyone wanting to be loved. And I just wish that we could all focus first on the love and let the gender sort itself out by the people who wish to do the sorting and not try to do it for them. You know, they relate all these stories of being at church, which, as you pointed out, they were there a lot. And by the time they were 7, 8, 9 years old, people were openly questioning whether they were gay. The eyes of the community were always on them. You just had this sense that they were being watched and judged from a very young age. And I just always hope that our religious communities can be more than that. That is not enough to encourage people to be authentic and to be able to pursue happiness in the way that we now understand happiness. Let's put it that way.
To actually flourish.
To flourish, to thrive. Exactly. In the early pages of the book, they're quite open about what they think about church environments, and very negative. And it was fun to read that. It was also really a cautionary tale of what a church can end up being, which is, you know, to maintain the standards and the social controls and to put that ahead of love, which is the opposite of what a church community should do.
It's a very educational read.
Yes, exactly. Uh-huh.
I recommend it highly.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners will take the time to both read it and attend one of our public book discussions. So let's turn to cultural events.
Sure. I wanted to mention, first of all, that because of Pride Month, Gloucester Meeting House Foundation and Cape Ann Pride are co-hosting a concert this coming Sunday afternoon at 3:30 at the Gloucester UU Church, the Meeting House. And this is going to be a performance by vocalist Jessie De Silva and her band. 3:30 in the Meeting House, 10 Church Street, and in celebration of Pride Month. So hope to see everybody there.
And of course, on June 24th, we'll be hosting the book discussion, Pretty, a memoir by KB Brookins, both myself and Gail Campbell.
And then there is a new art exhibit in the Gloucester UU Church's entryway gallery. The entry gallery is especially proud to feature photographic portraits and monographs from the book called To Survive on This Shore, Photographs and Interviews with Transgender and Gender Nonconforming Older Adults. This is an exhibit that has come to us on loan from First Parish in Arlington, Mass., and we are honored to be able to host this and recommend it highly to just come in and see some pictures of people and read their stories.
It's a powerful exhibit. I do recommend that one as well. Our services are broadcast live for anyone wishing to attend from away at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning. The link is on our website and in our weekly newsletter, which arrives on Fridays. Do sign up to receive our weekly news on our website. It is also posted on our Facebook page. That does it this month, except for Janet signing off. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Please do share it with a friend who might also enjoy.
A little blessing for the going forth. May love guide and surround each one of us as we discover and embrace who we authentically are. May closed minds be softened, and may they open to help heal and grow our collective humanity to which every one of us belongs. And may you be guided by a spirit of love and know that you are holy and whole. Blessed be. Until next time.
Thank you for joining Reverend Janet Parsons and me, Carol Bousquet, today. We're the co-hosts of the Gloucester Unitarian Universalists podcast, Siding with Love. For more information, please visit our website, gloucesteruu.org. And speaking of love, we'd love to see you in church soon. Until next time, be well.